Amir, do you know this Asman guy?
Which Asman guy? Let me see. Check it out. Yeah, I have his multiple. John Kitover, he's got like 5 accounts. I blocked his account. By the way, Teddy, are you there? Teddy's not here. I was gonna tell him something about this guy. Anyways, Osman, did you want to say something? Osman.
Has there been any more news? Updates or something?
Can you hear me, Osman?
Yes, I'm here. I said, when everybody on this group talking Israel, I think only Amir is Muslim, right?
A lot of them are Muslim, so it doesn't matter. Muslim, non-Muslim.
So I'm moving to the Palestinian people.
Is it what?
Matt with the United States flag. Look at that. All of a sudden he's pro-America. Wow.
America, Israel.
Can you come close to your mic? What are you trying to say? I just don't get it. What's your point?
Osman, are you in like in Israel with the missiles flying above, or are you in Iran?
What did you say?
Where are you? Which side are you?
My from, right? The country.
Yeah.
I'm from. I don't know where I'm from.
Well, you sound like you're on an air base.
But I protected Palestinian people. 100,000 people, children is killing the American bombs Israel bombing. So why? I ran off Israeli bombing Iran.
I think there's something wrong here.
I don't know what he's saying, man. I don't know what you're saying. Osman, it's good that you're mute, man, but there's no point.
He's having a fucking panic attack.
Anyways, the new news that I looked at, the Sky News, it said it's a mainstream media. Osman, can you please mute up?
Huh?
Thank you, you just stay muted. The mainstream media, which was Sky News, it said Iran is claiming they shot down 2 fighter jets.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Laughing at his shirt in front of him. Laughing at other people's misery.
And Mom was in the audience, so.
Yes, pretty much. I think it's pretty much guaranteed. This is why he did it.
What's that, Edward?
He said he feels like that Netanyahu has done this to stay in power. And I said it's pretty much guaranteed. This is why he's doing this.
And could care less how many people die as a result on the Israeli side or the Iranian. It's all about self-interest. Sad.
Well, I don't really agree, and I think the important distinction is that the US is
America's imperial plans. So every operation should be considered as a US-Israeli operation. There's not really any daylight between them. And it's kind of irrelevant. These, I believe, are political theatre where we describe, it's Bibi trying to gain power, it's Trump trying to negotiate. It's all lies, all for the public. The plans are much bigger than that. The US is intimately involved with the British and the French imperial powers as well. This is a grand chessboard, and the individual players on the board are just there for theatre, for the public, to make the speeches and so on. Actual geopolitical policy is much bigger.
Your voice is still a little way off. Can you come close to your mic?
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to explain the larger plans, and the larger plans are, as typically with all geopolitical struggles, you'll have power blocks, and the West is obviously one power block, China is another power block, Russia is its own weird, awkward power block that's trying to work with both sides, and the Middle East has traditionally been a hot spot for geopolitical power because of its resources as well, and vital to major trade routes through the Suez Canal, and on the other side, the Iran side, the Strait of Hormuz, both of which are vital for shipping as well as, more important, oil. And as the power balance in the world shifts towards the east, more and more oil trade is now going eastwards through the Strait of Hormuz, where traditionally there was more heading west through the Suez Canal. But to Europe, Europe is not as important anymore. Asia is now far more important economically and trade-wise than Europe. And so there's a power dynamic happening behind the scenes. So it's a struggle for the West to maintain control over the Middle East and Africa, for all of its resources and trade routes. Whereas Iran is aligned more with Russia and China now than ever. And so there's enormous strategic importance to controlling the region. I'm not saying that's the same as what Israel's goals are. Israel is its own demented psychopathic entity that wants more and more power across the world, but specifically it has a Greater Israel project that it has spelled out numerous times and is in the process of colonizing one country after another of its neighbors in that process, and that completely aligns with the US and the Western European powers because it fits with our strategy in the region.
I couldn't agree more. That's actually a really great assessment, Ralph. I wish that people would see it, but do you feel like this could turn into a proxy war? We do see that Russia, China, Iranian alliance is on one end, and then we see the alliances between Israel and the U.S. strategically, and we also see that obviously a lot of times these superpowers tend to align with countries that may not be superpowers to weaken their opponent, like such as if Russia gets involved, it's very dangerous if that happened. I mean, we don't want to have, this is how world wars become world wars. It would be in their interest, I guess, because they also know that this is going to be the U.S. Spending, giving a lot of military aid. That would weaken that would actually limit how much military aid will go to Ukraine. Because yes, the U.S. has a military-industrial complex in play, but they don't have a limitless amount of weaponry. Do you think we could get there? That could happen? Or they would try to use it as proxies?
I believe it already is effectively a proxy war, but it's a slow burn proxy war. The different levels of hot or cold war relate to the previous wars, including the Cold War. And so you have high level intensity wars like World War II or perhaps Vietnam, but you have low intensity conflicts as well. And the Middle East has been a perpetual slow burn, low intensity conflict that represents the opposing powers behind the scenes. I think personally that will continue. I don't think Russia or China is willing to get directly involved in an actual major war taking place in Iran. I think they're going to leave it to Iran to fend for themselves for the most part. I believe they are already providing military, technology, and financial support behind the scenes, but I don't think they're going to step in significantly. Russia previously had told the West Syria was a kind of a Stalingrad, but that was maybe a decade ago. When Israel took over Syria last year, Russia literally didn't lift a finger, they just let it happen, didn't do anything. And so the map has changed a bit. Even though the power dynamic is shifting towards China, Russia is not enough of a military superpower to challenge the US directly. That's why it can handle a proxy war in Ukraine as a low burn, prolonged war of attrition, but it can't go head to head with the US in a direct battle.
Which I agree with, but can I just add this little assertion here? Of course, it's not going to be this obvious. It's going to be very behind the scenes. Like, I believe China is the #1 customer for oil that Iran produces. So they have their best interests there. I know that, from what news reports have said, 2 days or a day before Israel's heinous attack on Iran, China had met with them, and they have already provided military equipment, and so has Russia. I mean, it may even just be showmanship. Even the first time that Israel acted in the way that they did by threatening Iran's sovereignty, we saw a lot of, it may again be for show, but it's enough to send a signal where there's Russian planes going back and forth with Tehran and sending some sort of weaponry, and they've been doing it for a long time, even before this. I do get it. You can't really go head to head with the USA, but you can use other countries to do it. So I think this slow burn might actually kind of come to a head now. It may actually get severely worse, and it may not be as well.
Well, I think it will get worse no matter what in the immediate short term. From neither side, I think it's going to be terrible for all sides initially, and I'm not relishing it whatsoever. I think it's going to be awful. And also there's a weird kind of time pressure as well that I think I can't be bothered to go into it, but there's another ticking clock behind the scenes that kicks in towards the end of the year. And so
what do you mean by that? Sorry if you don't mind.
Well, there's this weird thing to do with sanctions. The UN and the US imposed sanctions, and the US has kind of worked its way out of an ability for sanctions to snap back onto Iran. Therefore, because that will all expire and they can't revert it towards the end of this year, it sets in motion a kind of a ticking clock for them to get this thing done and resolved, because after that they will have much less recourse. So unfortunately, being as belligerent as the US is, they're more likely to take aggressive action rather than let that play out. And that's maybe a factor in why this is accelerating now. And so I think regardless of what happens, there will be a nasty conflict, but then I think the way Russia and China will continue to do things is the long game. So I think they're sadly willing to sacrifice countries like Syria, maybe Iran next, and so on. But in the end, they will watch the Western Empire continue to decline. And I think they will want to work behind the scenes and within countries like Saudi and so on to try and gradually shift the economic alliances towards China and so on, and see if they can eventually reset the world a little bit or balance it more in the long run. We know that Western power is reducing in Africa, and as those nations become more independent and more aligned with Russia and China, that all the global shift is happening. So I think they're counting on that more than trying to take aggressive action. I believe that's kind of
That's a fair assessment. Very fair. I'm just wondering if anybody has pushback. I'm just wondering if anybody in the audience wants to come up, or anybody on the stage wants to justify the actions, the so-called preemptive attack Israel has taken upon themselves to do upon Iran, its sovereign country. Anybody support that shit here? I'm just curious. Anybody sitting here is trying. It was funny how U.S. politicians, Germany and the UK had the audacity to say Israel has the right to defend themselves, but in this case, Israel was the outright aggressor. They said, "We'll pray for Israel." Is it that they're afraid that Iran has the ability to cause serious damage in Israel, that they're praying for them? I'm just curious. I'm very curious, these double standards that we have in our Western nations. Anybody want to defend it here? I see a lot of our dear Zionists in the I can't hear you. Yeah. You're breaking it. Yeah. Maybe are you speaking?
What's up, Brandon? Maybe we can't hear you. Your voice is coming out.
I think it's your Bluetooth, baby.
I mean, Ace, I can try to see from Western point of view. I mean, it's totally stupid, this kind of attacks. This is a last resort attack kind of thing, so I'm not defending it. It's completely ridiculous, but I can try to understand why West, like European countries specifically, are kind of supporting it.
It's not kind of. It's not kind of. They are. You know what really annoys me? There's been news articles since 1990 that have been saying Iran is 5 years away from nuclear power, 5 years away, 3 years away. This has been going on since 1990. Okay, and then if there was a peace talk, there was actually a talk scheduled for Sunday between the USA and Iran. So maybe there was some progress made behind the scenes that Israel heard, and they just wanted to again debunk, destroy any peace. So let's just do this type of heinous attack. So I don't see the Western perspective. I mean, unless they're trying to just
I can try to explain it to you. So you have to look at the geography of Iran. So Iran, like, is the land between two seas. On the bottom is the Persian Gulf.
We understand the trade routes. Yeah, I get that, but
so if you go back to Second World War, the whole war, I could say, was on this land. And the first resolution of the United Nations, like after the war was finished, the first resolution was everybody should get out of this land. So I would claim is the most critical land in the world, like a strategic land, and it's very important what side this land like politically aligns with. West does not want this land aligned with East, like let's say China or Russia.
Are you saying strategically in terms of trade routes?
Amir, somebody's recording right now and streaming that.
I know, it's the same person.
Guys, we need to record him every single time he does it as a group to Clubhouse.
Yeah, I'm working on that. That's why I'm not saying much.
Do you know what the house name is? It says a new term.
Don Kitover, Kitober.
Yeah, he's
Here as mods, we need to block the account. Can you guys put the account in here? Because if the mods block him as an account, he can't kicked out of the video.
I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah, account. That's.
One is
Can you put it in the chat?
I think I did already. Hold on.
Oh.
Let's see what this says. It's comedian Republican.
But he opened up a house called the Near Terrorist Supporters. Did you see the house name?
It's about to get done. YouTube and everywhere else. Sometimes you gotta let people fuck around and find out. For real. He's been warned. He's even got other profiles going in and out of the room. Screenshot them and take down the account numbers. He's gonna be broke. Imagine paying $5 for anonymous accounts. Left and right.
So you guys want to hear this ironic statement?
Actually was a veteran.
So they're saying that Iran is attacking civilians, right? This coming from, I think his name is Israel, whatever, Gazan, saying that Iran is targeting, Iran has crossed a red line. They're targeting civilians. That's pretty ironic because that's what they've been doing to the Gazans since October 8th, 2023.
Yeah, this is completely.
It's what they were doing to in Iran actually since yesterday. They took out apartment buildings.
Yeah,
By the way, PTR, look. This is Central Tel Aviv.
You're right, it's hypocrisy. What's interesting is from what I've been seeing on X from reputable sources, anything where there's been civilian infrastructure that's been damaged, it's kind of like sharpen all follow. Like the targets have been key, military installations, and then could we say that they're, think about it, Mossad, some of these headquarters happen to be in a very heavily civilian populated areas. So could we say that they're using human shields, knowing that these facilities are targets, knowing that, Muslim countries tend to follow some sort of rule of engagement based upon their religion. So let's just go and make it very difficult for them to attack these areas because they're not gonna, go and deny their religion and do types of this bloodline bullshit that Israel does. But if there's fallout, shrapnel, there's things that happen with hypersonic missiles, that's gonna happen. Not the intended target. Friggin' hypocrisy. Sorry, Rolf, you're gonna.
No, but I think you guys really should condemn this. This is wrong. They shouldn't do this.
Everything is wrong. Of course it is. I'm not supporting any of it. I don't think innocent civilians should be hurt. But if you're gonna sit there and say that Iran doesn't have a right to defend itself, but Israel always has a right to defend itself, that's kind of.
Well, actually, there was a point I was going to make, which many people pointed out on social media, which is that the Israelis intentionally placed their headquarters and so on in civilian areas, so that when they're attacked, they can point, you're attacking civilian populations. It's the typical, it's the reversal of what they accuse the other side of. They always accuse Hamas and human shields, blah, blah, blah. But of course, best to tell you what they do themselves. We've seen them using human shields literally in Gaza, pointing people on their trucks, physically using them as human shields. So here we go again. It's the same hypocrisy, and of course the media never points out that hypocrisy. Is happy to go along with this narrative, and this was all part of the script. It was going to be in the script from day one, and here we go. The narrative's already written.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
What did you think of Bibi Netanyahu's speech yesterday, especially when he started quoting verses from the Bible in the New Testament?
It was inspiring.
Sorry.
You see how he wants to get the Christians.
Of course,
He's trying to get Americans, and speaking in English, obviously, right?
Yeah, they know what they're doing. It's all aimed at the fucking Christian Zionists and even ordinary Christians. There's so many ordinary Americans that have vaguely Christian upbringing, and they think that these are the chosen people and they're all victims and blah, blah, blah. It's the same old stuff. It's in my family too. It's deeply embedded in Western culture. They know exactly what they're doing.
So there's a general, I forgot his name, high-ranking general in the Iranian IRGC who said that this is True Promise 3 and not the retaliation for what's happened, what Israel has done so far. So they're and I think they're doing this for two reasons. One is Article 51. So they have a legal right to respond to what happened back in last October. So they're using that and then holding on to the next Article 51. You know, it's kind of like get out of jail free card to attack another country. And two, it also, like, Israel doesn't know, no one knows when the actual major strike from Iran would come, if it would come at all. So it puts Israel on the defensive and keeps them there. And which is exactly what they did in 2 Promise 1 and 2. It took them a couple of weeks before they actually hit or sent out the missiles. And they're doing the same thing here, except it's a little differently, a little twist to it. They're sending out missiles in smaller amounts, but in waves. And they're calling it True Promise 3 instead of, instead of in response to what happened, so that they can escalate to what happened whenever they want. And it's just a way to, I guess, to control the narrative and control the escalation, which is how Iran has always done things.
It's funny, Turkey, Edwin just gave me the room, house called Military Supporters. One of the clips even has your name on it.
As my name? Why my name? Why am I the one that's blocked?
It says documenting Amir terrorist supporters. That's one house. That's one room under that house. And second room that he did, it was about 6 minutes long. Amir, Edward, terrorist supporters, hate speech. And then the third room he did, terrorist sympathizer, Muslim extremists, Amir. And then the fourth room, and on recordings, terrorists and hate speech. And then the fifth one, documenting hate speech and terrorist supporters. Yeah, he's triggered. He is
triggered.
So we sure this is not our Norma?
No, Norm doesn't know how to, he's not that sophisticated in the house.
So it's trying to, it's saying that he wants to go back to Israel to fight with the idea. This man needs to
With a cane?
That's a rapid old man. You know what?
He needs to sit several seats down.
Let him. He's gonna throw his dentures at something.
I was gonna say, Hamas would knock his dentures out of his mouth.
His afro is going to be a big
Fall.
target.
He's been pulling an AR-15 in his trip and fall, hit his bump his head, and that's it. Won't even make it.
I don't know if Medicare covers him though in Gaza. I don't know if they'll cover him.
Oh man, you should see. I go into their rooms. You know what they are saying? They are right now saying this is available from inside. So they are begging Iranian inside Iran to help them. They are really
Yeah, he says that. He thinks that. And that's like laps or.
They are crying. They are shitting their pants. It's so weird.
Yeah, but you know the funny thing is, they always kind of try and portray that the Iranian government has no support in Iran. Look at the streets of Iran. Look how many people are on the streets supporting their government.
Because nobody wants their government attacked by a foreign nation. I mean,
Exactly. Even if you have a problem with your own government,
They
you're
are
running around for an
Wasn't there a large number of Persian Jews? Because they were actually speaking
In Iran,
in yes, and they were saying that they want Iran to attack Israel.
There's a member of parliament.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but did you guys hear? I'm not sure if you guys would hear that dumbass Nathan was trying to play a bit of I guess BB's little live broadcast, and I heard a bit of it. Again, the whole idea of this, we're not coming to attack. We love the Iranian people. We're not coming to attack you. But you guys need to rise up against the regime.
Yeah, like saviors.
Hold on, you're bombing land that I live on. You're not coming to hurt me. So they actually, do you know what they're banking on? They're banking on there to be so much civil unrest that the government gets overthrown internally. Something
Yeah.
like the whole Syria situation.
Yeah.
But that's
Just
not
trying
gonna
to
happen.
times.
Yeah, I know,
Well,
but
also-
that's what they need. That's what they
Yes.
need for a regime change, but it's not
Exactly.
going to happen.
But how it translates into Farsi, if Farsi is, like Arabic, his English statements translated, for example, into Arabic, you can clearly differentiate the fact that he is not genuine if he translated his statements into Arabic. So I'm assuming it's the same for Farsi also.
To interject a little bit here.
Sure.
It is well known what you're saying, Ace, is exactly on point, but it is important to consider that it's not merely rhetoric coming from me. Remember, his audience isn't actually Iran. His audience is primarily the US, right? And the point is the mechanisms that they will try to put into place to create a color revolution will be the same mechanisms they use every time. And they don't do it necessarily through a genuine popular support or groundswell. They do it by fakery. They did it in Ukraine. They did it in Syria. They did it in Libya. It's a manufactured uprising, and they can do it. They have the resources. They have money. They have plenty of corrupt people within every country. There are always sellouts who are willing to be collaborators, and then they can use many different tactics and means to stage and fake a color revolution, just like they did in Ukraine, and have a fascist coup, basically, and present it to the world as an uprising. I'm not saying it will succeed, but you can guarantee they've spent at least 5, maybe 10 years laying the groundwork for the color revolution, because it goes hand in hand with the military strike. There was never going to be a land invasion of Iran. It's physically impossible. The plan would always be military strikes plus a color revolution. The only question is going to be whether that succeeds or not. And we'll see. I believe the Iranian people will not stand for it.
No, they won't.
Not that.
Ralph, you actually a very good question. You actually raise a very, very fair point, and actually a good point. Because if we go back in history, Mohammed Mossadegh, who was the democratically elected prime minister, I believe, of Iran, he was overthrown in very dubious circumstances by MI6 and CIA because he nationalized the oil. And if you look at how they did that, it was almost exactly the same as what they've been trying for several years. They try and kind of pay the fifth column off within society and then create the spark.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter if it's a real revolution.
But Israel doesn't have the credibility to do it.
Idiots.
But Israel doesn't need to do it, Edward. It's America that needs to do it.
Yeah, but Israel's the one that's firing missiles and bombs into Iran. You can't bomb a people and then turn around and say we're going to save you and you should rise up.
Well,
It's going to be the opposite.
Many times. It's watched this happen again and again, right? In Syria, the Western powers and their proxies attacked Syria again and again, and when we decided to flip a switch, we paid a bunch of mercenaries to stage a fake revolution. We did it in Libya. We bombed the fuck out of Libya, and we paid a bunch of mercenaries. We did it in Yugoslavia. We faked a bunch of mercenaries and said they were poor, oppressed Muslims or whatever. We've done it again and again. It's the standard play. The population knows they're being played. They don't with it, but they have no choice. The Syrians have no choice in what was done to their country. The Yugoslavians didn't. I went there when it was still Yugoslavia, and the Western powers intentionally broke it up. We created a civil war, completely manufactured. The CIA was instigating everything. We did it in Ukraine. We do it everywhere. There wasn't as much shooting going on as in Ukraine, but there was some. And your point is completely valid that by Israel attacking the Iranians, it will inevitably unite the population to some extent. But history has shown it's not always enough. The Western powers can't, if they have so much leverage, they can just force it to happen.
But you also should, I think you're discounting, or not, I should say discounting. Keep in mind that unlike these other nations that you mentioned, you have two other superpowers or near superpowers, China and Russia, backing Iran.
I mentioned this before, and if you remember, they were backing Syria they said to the West, this is our Stalingrad, you will not take down Syria. They fought and fought and fought. This is the Russians, by the way, not the Chinese. But then last year, the Russians just stepped away from it. They didn't do a thing. They just let it happen. So you can't predict how much the power is. Pardon?
So the problem and the difference is here. So exactly same situation, much worse happened during Bush time after 9/11. And Iranian regime has planned. I mean, this is the thing that they didn't expect. They can retaliate like this. That's why they're shitting their pants. The thing is that they knew that this is and they have a very strategic plan for it. So I was in Iran and I was talking to them. For example, the core regime instantly will be divided to 11 regime across. So the core commands under if there is a major attack. Right now the core commands in Tehran will instantly divide it into 11 commands independent of each other all across country. So and like the missile sites right now, like the ambassador of Israel was just saying that we eliminated the missile threat. And look at what's happening to Tel Aviv. The Iranians have plans for this for a long time. They know that if a major power like United States and Israel attack, what should they be doing to retaliate? And this is what Jews, like we were talking about the normal, they didn't see it coming. They are scared like fuck.
So the things you described to me just now, the strategy that you just told me, I believe you're not military intelligence, but you've learned this from being a person listening to people in Iran, and you're probably very accurate.
Right.
Now, if you consider what we civilians are able to find out, and then compare what military intelligence are able to find out, military intelligence find out about 100 to 1,000 times more information than we did. That's probably a low estimate. And when you've got a military the scale of NATO, you've got the top British intelligence, GCHQ, you've got top French intelligence, which are incredible. You've got top CIA and about 20 different intelligence agencies, Army intelligence, Naval intelligence. You've got the Mossad and a little bit different intelligence agencies. You've got all those intelligence agencies arrayed against Iran. I'm not saying Iran is a pushover, but if you did a chess simulation on the board, the Western Alliance ought to win in a chess game against Iran. On paper, it should win. I'm not saying I want it to win, and I am open to the possibility the West is arrogant and making mistakes, but so far they haven't shown to make any serious mistakes. Tactically, they've already taken out various commanders and so on, unfortunately. So it's already shown weaknesses in the Iranian defenses and things how barely got started. This is not me wanting it to happen. They've moved enormous military resources into the area, which means they've done enormous amounts of planning. The West are not sitting there not planning. They're planning and counter-planning and counter-planning, running computer simulations and wargaming the fuck out of it, predicting every possible Iranian move and what they would do to counter it.
This is the whole problem that West does not want to understand. It has been over and over. You do not know area. You do not know these people. People in Middle East, they don't play chess. They play backgammon.
I'm not sure against chess. Look, I'm using chess as an analogy.
No,
it has all this satellite information. They have enormous
You
data.
cannot buy Muslims by money. There is no way to buy Muslims by money.
So how
It
was Muslim
doesn't
going
work
to
the way it was
because they
right.
like Muslims, I guess, right?
Exactly. This is what we are trying to do in the Jordan area.
Okay, Iran is not monolithically Muslim or Islamic, correct?
The area, Middle East, is 100% Muslim. I mean, 99.999999.
Iran is 95% Muslim. It's 95%.
Okay, well that's a statistic I can hear. If you say 100%, it's not realistic.
No, I'm just trying to say you don't know area.
their job, and they spend billions on this shit. So their
And
chances
they lost in Afghanistan, they lost in Iran, they lost in Afghanistan.
It's how you define lost. They never had any military objective. Right? They didn't have a proper military objective. It was all politically driven. That's a narrative. That's a superficial narrative to justify geostrategic aims that they have, including the drug trade. Taliban is a smokescreen. It's a story. The fact that we fucking funded the Taliban and we support terrorist groups proves it's not the real agenda. That is a story. Terrorists have made up stories to justify the larger actions that we do. When we fund Al Qaeda, it's not because we're trying to take down Al Qaeda, that's because we need an agenda, we need an excuse to go into the next country. Every country will invade.
The United States lose in Afghanistan, we didn't lose. What's your take on this?
I think it was just a whole lot of very small things that murdered people unnecessarily and it achieved more or less nothing. But it had strategic goals.
What was that?
Imperial ambitions.
What was the strategic goal? Was it achieved?
It would have been partially achieved initially because the initial goal way back when was to take down the Soviet Union, and unfortunately it was instrumental in that. And then the goals shifted. But that region has always been strategically important. The British used to send our troops up there into the Khyber Pass.
I mean US attack on Afghanistan. US attack on Afghanistan.
Yeah,
the main plan was to go.
The US has the same imperial goals as the British. We're aligned with the US and the US empire, and we are aiming to control the world. We want to be the dominant hegemon. And so every part of the world has different strategic values. And the Khyber Pass, Afghanistan, that region is of strategic value because it's a linchpin between East and West. Even Pakistan has strategic value. Iran has enormous strategic value. The Levant has strategic value. The tip of the Horn of Africa has enormous strategic value. It's the only place in the world where there's one Chinese base, because it shows how important it is for trade. All of these agendas that the imperial powers had are way complex to do with economics, trade, power, influence, politics, national borders. They're not to do with, oh, there's some bad guys over here, let's see who wins in the stupid little soldier fight. That's fucking irrelevant. There are massive schemes in place, and those schemes change. So when you see some empire dragging out a war in a stupid way for 20 years, it doesn't mean they're dumb or they're thick. It means that their strategy changed over time, and it now no longer becomes of vital importance as the landscape shifts. This is complex shit.
So I don't get it. Did they lose or they not lost?
It's irrelevant. The West still runs the world, so technically they won because they still are the dominant power, unfortunately.
Right, but not Afghanistan, not Iraq. Iran is running Afghanistan.
Iraq is a fucking mess. Iraq has no power or autonomy, anything. It's a vassal state, sadly.
You just gotta remember that Israel attacked Iran because Western media is gonna make it seem like Israel's the victim, and they're not. They attacked first. That's all I want to say.
I totally agree.
No, the point that I'm trying to make is that United States and the West attack Afghanistan. They attack Iraq to do exactly what you are saying, to make a color change, and they failed. They, with all their chess games, they failed. And I don't know how you are trying to justify they didn't fail. It's so obvious they failed.
Because the way I define lose or win is militarily here. If you're saying the Americans lost any physical battle, I'm not seeing it. If you can show me vast numbers of American troops obliterated and the battlefield slaughtered and the enemy troops taken over, I'm not seeing it. I haven't seen that.
They ran away overnight.
They didn't run away, they decided the project was over, packed up and left. That's completely different.
Yeah, it's the same as
that is an imperial objective shifted. It is no longer.
I mean, you are playing with the world.
Reallocate resources to, for example, Ukraine, Africa, where they're quietly building a whole load of civil wars as we speak, the Middle East, because they knew they were going to go after Iran. These are plans that they shift resources around all the time.
Ross, they ran away overnight. You were saying strategic retreat. It's the same. They ran away overnight.
You can call it a retreat. If you want to thump your chest, say you are, you jump on a hill and say retreat, fine. As far as that empire goes, it had better things to do. If aliens came tomorrow, destroyed us all, wiped out everything we ever had, stayed there for 20 years, and then they get bored and leave, we can jump up and down as cavemen and say, we beat them, we left. We can say that we want. They don't give a fuck. We've got the next planet to colonize.
Wayfan, I think he's saying that, look, the Americans, for example, came into Afghanistan, sucked it dry, took what they wanted, juiced it for what it's worth, packed up and left. And that's why there's two definitions.
What did they suck?
Drugs, primarily.
Drugs? They have access to drugs from South America. Why they should come to Afghanistan?
Because it's an extremely bad drug trade. Heroin, it always has been. The British were there first. The British enslaved China. Really? Do you know how my tiny little country enslaved China? Do you know how? The opium trade. You never heard of the opium wars? You need to go back and look at history.
Yeah, they were the first global drug dealer.
They came to Afghanistan because of his strategic plays, and they wanted to get Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iran. This was literally that guy. What was his Iran? No, that Dick Cheney. He was saying we want a new Middle East, whatever. This new new Republican. This was their agenda. They were saying that we want a new Middle East. We want to get Afghanistan. We go to Iraq, and Iran is next. They literally formally announced it as the policy of Bush administration, and they did.
Correct. It was part of the neocons.
That's
right. And they wrote a large document called the Project for a New American Century, and it was published in September 2000, exactly 1 year before 9/11. And they said in it, the US needs to ensure another 100 years of hegemony, military, over the whole world, and it must present any rival challenging American supremacy. And as a result, it needs to do much more increased forward basing. The US had way fewer bases 10 years ago. It's now got close to 800 bases around the world. So they succeeded in their military expansionism plans. And a key part of that planning was, as you say, restructuring the Middle East. And all of these neocons were Zionists. So the purpose of restructuring the Middle East was primarily to put Israel in charge, but it also aligned perfectly with the US Anglo-American imperial designs on running the world. So Zionism and Anglo-American imperialism align perfectly well together. So they collaborate on all of these large-scale plans to make sure that their so-called enemies never get a foothold in these different regions. That was the purpose of the project of the New American Century. And so as a result, the regime change plans that you probably heard Wesley Clark mention, they plan to regime change 7 countries, including Libya, Sudan, Iraq, and the rest of them. I think ultimately including Iran was all part of that plan. You're right, it's partially correct, but it shows again the agenda isn't just to take down countries for the sake of it. It's because they have a global geostrategic long-term strategy, in this case 100 years worth of strategy. And with China, their ultimate goal in their sights, the biggest challenge of all. And even when I was in London in the mid-90s, Whitehall was saying, forget about the Middle East, the main objective is to contain China. And that is increasingly being the objective. That's why under Obama, he said that we're doing a pivot to Asia. The military shift has gone towards dealing militarily with China. We've sent nuclear bombers to the Philippines now. We've successfully rearmed Japan. We are arming South Korea. We're building alliances with Western-friendly Asian nations to surround China. And of course, we're funding the Taiwanese, that separatist group. We're funding and giving military arms in a massive way to those separatists because we want to provoke Taiwan to have some kind of conflict with China, and that will be the flashpoint that will justify the final stage of their imperial designs, and that is to have a physical military conflict with China in some form or another. And all of these moving pieces are all deeply interconnected.
I think you are mixing two things. So those neocons, they are different from Obama in my mind. Obama was a shift because neocons failed. So what you're saying is correct. There was a huge shift in policy that the United States announced formally that we do not have strategic interest in Europe and Middle East. Our only strategic interest is in Asia. But that was after neocons. So I go back to my original point that all those chess players, war simulations, they fail in Middle East. And they have failed in neocons time, and right now they will fail again. And that's why you see enormous shitting his pants. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, a couple of things. One, these grand designs, as I keep repeating, are much bigger than any political individual or faction. The neocons were a political, ideological faction who pushed hard on this one particular agenda, but they weren't just a little island on their own who suddenly took over the entire Western Empire. It meant that they had to be aligned with all of the European, Westernized interests, including Australia as well. Let's not forget, they all had one-term agenda, and we all participated and collaborated in the entire 20-year war on terror. And the neocons are only part of that story, and the neocons haven't gone away. They've just rebranded themselves, renamed them. Rubio's a fucking neocon. The entire Trump cabinet is a fully Zionist neocon. They may not call themselves neocons, they might as well just call them straight up Zionists. They're sort of dropping the neocon label, it's gone out of fashion, but they're the same psychopaths with the same agendas, and that the Trump cabinet is way more extreme, perhaps than ever in US history in terms of this agenda. Obama was just yet another puppet, just there to say nice things. But clearly everything he said was in line with the long-term agenda of the US empire.
His first cabinet, probably, but this cabinet, no. This cabinet is a bunch of reality show.
You are wrong.
Who's neocon
I
in this
disagree with
cabinet?
you. I disagree with you, actually. You're actually, I was going to say you're right and you're wrong. At his first administration, he had someone like Jim Mattis who served in Iraq. He fired Jim Mattis, and then he brought in someone like Mark Esper, who served in the first Iraq war as a soldier. Jim Mattis did serve as a general, and he also served as a general in Afghanistan. Mark Esper was also head of Heritage Foundation, which is a neocon political think tank. He also had Mike Pompeo. I believe he had what's that guy name? I forgot his name. John Bolton. Yeah, John Bolton. He had John Bolton. He had so many people. Like even Obama had a lot of I would say some neocon administration or neoliberals. Joe Biden was one of them. Anthony Blinken, Hillary Clinton. What was it? I believe he had Robert Gates. He had what's that guy? I forgot his name. He was CIA director, John Brennan. Bro, both sides are just it's neocon and neoliberal, bro. Basically.
Blinken is
right now. That's pretty impressive. You're not yelling and screaming. You're actually making some good points.
No, but Anthony Blinken was neocon.
He was neoliberal, basically neo-interventionalist.
Okay, so which part I'm wrong? So his first administration, Trump first administration, Pompeo, those guys were neocon. But his second administration, this one, who is neocon in this administration?
Marco Rubio is a neocon. Pete Hegseth, neocon. He served in Iraq. We also have someone like
You've got his co-chairman, Lutnick, who's a full-on Chabad Zionist.
Yo,
He's elected
Lutnick,
all of them.
Howard Lutnick used to donate to Hillary Clinton, by the way, guys. There's an article in the New York Post from 2015. He was doing a fundraiser at Epstein's house.
I didn't know that part, but yeah, that is. So it's interesting, deeply Zionist cabinet.
It is, bro. It's pretty much like the same. It's no different than the previous one and the ones before, bro. You know what's interesting, bro? I remember someone saying, like, I forgot who told me, but, like, I can just remember someone saying, because I told them, I was like, I'm very happy that Lloyd Austin is the defense secretary as a black man. Well, someone said it doesn't matter if he's black, he's still gonna do the dirty work. And guess what? The person proved my point. 3 months later, what happens in Gaza? And then you have Ukraine. And then you have the Afghanistan withdrawal. Then you have October 7th. That shows you, bro, one thing, it shows you it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be used as a pawn. Like, think about Bush. Bush had 2 Secretary of States. Both were black. They were used as, you know, pawns of Zionist imperialism. You know, or should I say it's like U.S. imperialism or whatever. I like to call it Zionist imperialism because that's what they're serving. And, you know, look at the UK, guys. Yes, UK.
Yeah.
They had an Indian Prime Minister for about almost 2 years. He is also used as a Zionist imperial tool. David Lammy, he's another black individual. They use him as a, you know.
Yeah, he's awful.
Barack Obama. I'm not
Real quick on Sunak, his wife, I believe his wife or him directly worked with a corporation that was involved in the Israeli intelligence directly. So they were deeply connected, and the Zionist connections in the UK are getting deeper and deeper now with each sort of successive generation. It's kind of insane.
Yeah,
Yes,
well, I'm gonna tell you a story, by the way. So, when I was a kid, I used to be a fan of Barack Obama, and I'm gonna tell you honestly, straight up, only because he was a black man. It was after I moved to this country from Canada that I started doing research, that I started to figure out the guy was actually, look what he did, the bearded guy did too. But look at what he did, bro. He was no different than these individuals, bro. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I started to fall for the Obama hype for a little bit, but then I quickly fell through it. I saw through it very quickly, though.
Yeah, bro, facts.
Especially when I realized Kissinger sort of brought him up. I was like, okay, here we go. And he's from Chicago, so this Chicago school. It's like that's corruption.
So,
Henry
brothers.
Kissinger, bro. Sit down, brother. Henry Kissinger died at 100 years old, bro, so he died at 100 years old. Isn't that interesting?
I think it's good die,
He probably drank a lot of blood of kids.
Probably from hate.
And I believe that they don't have to believe, brothers, in the agenda to serve, as long as they're available and submit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
that's all. They're just a bunch of servers, and whoever is more zealot in the serving, forget the ideology. They'll just go with that one, and it looks like they have a nice pool of available politicians that have sold the soul long ago.
Absolutely.
I actually voted for Obama. I think I received voting rights because I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. I'm from Albania. So I voted for Obama, and the things he promised, and pretty much he pointed out every negative thing that the Bush administration had done. And he flip-flopped 180 on every single issue that he brought up as a negative. You know, Guantanamo, gay marriage, all this stuff. He's like, oh, I'm against that. Oh, yeah, we're going to get rid of Guantanamo Bay. Dude, nothing. And the first thing he does is just, he signs to power, pretty much every president has to re-sign the Patriot Act because it's not the law, so to speak. And they always have to renew that abomination. violation of human rights violations. So the moment they resign that it tells you right there and then what kind of presidents they are, because the Patriot Act pretty much enables them to violate habeas corpus. Pretty much they can arrest you, detain you without charging you, label you as a terrorist, and that's it. You're done in the middle of the night. Your parents can ask for you. You don't matter. It's like they have the legal authority to detain you without charging you and drop you somewhere in no time. Okay. So technically, they can go after any enemies of the state that makes it ongoing. This is a police state at this point. Exactly. Regardless what happened out Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever the agendas, you might say, oh, they failed. We don't know what their true agendas are. They don't go there to invade the country per se and hold it out. We're winning. In the end, I think they got what they wanted, which is a police state, which allows to maintain the status quo. And they have the legal authority to lodge for anybody who makes the way. It's about prolonging this cancerous abomination of this power. As long as Allah wills it, And God says, that's it.
What's up with you, Pearl, and everybody else on our bed? I wanted to ask maybe a couple, it might be funny, it might come off as funny. Do you think if you were to, what if every politician had to wear like a lie detector in public, so we know which one is lying, which one's not lying? What do you guys think about that?
You're hilarious.
I think that would be good, right, Pearl?
Absolutely. My wife said there should be a thing where everybody's head turns green when you lie.
Yeah, but they're all liars. The
True, that
detector
doesn't
would be
really
going
matter.
out the whole time.
Good point.
It wouldn't even be specific. Like you'd have too much data to run through.
It relates to that. Let's say what if the U.S. and Mexico merged?
Listen, you don't have to have them wear a lie detector test. You have access to it. You know how? If they wear an Apple Watch and you can monitor their heart rate, that is the lie detector test. That's part of it. Your heartbeat speeds up. So, it's one way.
So
You can just tap into their iPhone.
If the U.S. and Mexico merged into one country, who gets to make the tacos legal? Who's gonna be making the tacos?
Still bad.
Anyway, I don't know if you remember, brother, back in 2020, Trump didn't want to get involved in Iran. I just hope, and I pray. Today's Friday. I just hope he doesn't roll wallahi, bro. I don't want to experience war wallahi, because I'm still in school, I'm working, I want to do some things in my life. I just hope.
Brother, you're not gonna be serving in the military, don't worry. Okay?
Alhamdulillah, I know.
I'm gonna invoke my religious card. I'm gonna invoke my religious card. The religious card.
Where are you?
Yeah, but alhamdulillah, I have diabetes. I've already accepted it. I can't do alhamdulillah. That's the one thing. Alhamdulillah.
So what are you worried about on us? Just let it be, brother.
I'm worried, bro, because if World War III happens, everything is gonna go up.
It's okay, brother. We rather have this war that needs to happen because this Zionist entity, he has attacked a whole bunch of people. There's a war's gotta happen. It needs to happen because we can't keep going back and forth. Let's say, I'll give you another hypothetical. Let's say if they would have stopped and done a permanent ceasefire, okay? It would still be under threat because it's still under occupation. You would see another genocide.
Hold on a moment. What business does Israel have attacking a sovereign nation like Iran when they're in the middle of a war and they can't get rid of the guys in flip-flops? On their own turf, they're actively engaging in a war outside. I don't understand the reason.
Netanyahu wants to stay in power, that's why. Because otherwise he's going to be locked up in jail. If he stops all the wars, takes his ID back, he's going to be locked up. There's about 3 corruption charges on him. There's more charges coming around, and he's a war criminal, according to the ICC. So he's scared. He's shit scared. And this is why the way he's running the show, it's always got to be at war. always gotta kill or oppress or do something.
So
Gotta keep them busy.
I
He's
mentioned,
not exactly in the position to start a war. Do you understand? You're not getting that.
so
America will defend it. America was behind it, by the way. America was behind this attack.
Amir is 100% correct regarding Netanyahu not wanting to step out of office because he'll be. There's a, what is it, the ICC put out an international arrest warrant last November for him as a war criminal, proven as well. They're just staying active to avoid arrest and not to mention the corruption charges that he alluded to as well. Netanyahu is scum.
So I want to go back to a point I was making earlier, Amir, that I don't believe it is down to one individual, corrupt president, i.e. Bibi. I believe the plan is bigger than this, and there's a reason, I've got evidence for that, not just an opinion, and that is that the US has been building its military plans for the region continuously over the last decades, and recently over the last several years it's been ramping up, moving military forces into the region, including Iraq and other places to surround Iran. It means there's a very large-scale US strategic planning at a very high level in concert with the British, who are operating out of Cyprus, and the French, who are running intelligence and military operations. It's an international organized effort. If it was just Bibi desperate to cling to power and he was trying to cajole the West into this, I personally don't think the West is so far advanced along in these plans. I believe that Bibi's desperation happens to align with Western interests, and they're willing to go along with his stupidity because it fits the agenda of the larger power, which is the Western alliance, and they have an agenda to regime change Iran, and it happens to align with Israel's agenda to regime change Iran. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I would like to present that counter point of view at least.
We have Edward is back. What's up, Edward?
Any updates, Amir?
So, Edward, I had a question for you. Do you think we can have like every politician to wear like a lie detector in public? Do you think that'd be a best idea? What do you think about that?
No, since they're the ones that vote in new laws, I highly doubt they'll vote in a law like that, or vote on a bill like that to make it a law.
I think we need to have Trump and Biden, rule
But
by
I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you what. With the way smart glasses are going, and AI could pick up, somebody's body language and their facial expressions, like micro expressions. They could pick up on people lying. So that might not be too far off in terms of technology. So it wouldn't have to be a lie detector test that you have to be plugged into. But just look at somebody and know if they're lying or not. But then what you'll have is people won't say anything unless they're behind a filter. Which is
I got a funny one for you guys. What if every time a world leader lied, then they turned into gold for 10 minutes? That would be good, man.
Turned into gold?
Goat.
A goat.
Yeah.
What is it with goats? I've heard goats a few times in the last 2 days.
Iran's attacked the IDF headquarters.
I attacked the IDF headquarters just now or recently.
Yeah, I'm gonna pronounce this like.
Now, Iran is intercepting.
The Pentagon basically in Israel.
Oh well.
I don't like that I can't use my soundboard.
I know there have been videos coming out of Iran showing a large number of Israeli missiles being intercepted. And Iranian media reported the 2 F-35s that were shot down. And one pilot recovered.
I mean, Iranians, I'm telling you, as in ex-Iranians. They will kill Netanyahu. This was too big. They will not stop. They only stop if they kill Netanyahu.
You away from being in the country and being America.
They're that pissed? Why are they that pissed?
It was very, very, like, it was very bad. The attack was very bad. And when this happens, the only way they can stay in power is by killing Netanyahu. I'm just telling you. So, if it's World War III, they will not stop. They have to kill Netanyahu. The attack was really, really bad.
Yo,
There's air raid sirens in New York, man.
are you sure they're not tornado sirens?
We have tornadoes in New York?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys get tornadoes.
I want to ask in another room. I'm over with the Israelis too. Thank you for sharing the fun with me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they know my name, they know everything, and they're just like, you know, they know. It's very funny playing these mind games with them. Because it's.
What DDR should I use on my anonymous account? Oh, wait. Get rid of this guy Bone first. I don't know who it is.
Well, just if you're anonymous, they can't see. Oh, you mean like the emoji?
What should I use? Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just do the glasses if you want to go in there anonymously. But I mean,
Okay.
it's the same shit. And what's interesting is they counter anonymous me now. Like they're coming in anonymously in accounts. It's like, I'm kicking everybody out of every room I have. And the only way to listen in on what I'm live streaming is to get an anonymous account. This is like next level communication warfare. It's a fun, crazy game.
Very slowly and very methodically.
And Netanyahu is a bunker. Right now the news is that he's a bunker and nobody knows which bunker he is. They are hiding him. The first 24 hours he was in an airplane and now they put him in a bunker. You won't see him anymore. He's like,
You know, Netanyahu came out to the Iranian people and he was like, he tried to lead them to stand up against their government because he's fucking shit in his pants.
CNN was saying he's in a bunker, so.
How can you, as a little country with a very limited missile capability, go up against a massive nation with enormous, huge amounts of missile resources that they've been stockpiling for many, many years? And I just don't understand. What is the logic in this?
Has anyone read the art of war, ancient Chinese book about war fighting? Well, anyway, if you haven't, there's a chapter called The Wound, and it's the precursor to what people often call Volkswagen. The wound in military tactics is you allow the enemy to attack you and do a significant amount of damage. So it's not just some staged fake terror attack, this is a military attack. You allow it to happen because your agenda is to justify a much bigger military retaliation. And it's a classic military tactic called the wound. To me, that's exactly what this looks like. It's a calculated provocation to receive significant damage from the Iranians with the intent that the US is massively, again, with the British, with the French, all the other allies, to go to war on their behalf against Iran. I wish that was not the case.
Can you say that Iran is doing one thing? That's not happening.
It appears to be the case.
Can you say Iran is doing
Hold on, one at a time. I'll like Teddy to respond.
It took 8 hours alongside coordinated attacks by Mossad agents within Iran, and you look at some of the photos, they are called their nations. That's why That's why Iran had no defense system, basically, because they had a massive attack from within. And from those other different. Yeah, there was an attack from Iraq as well. I'll get the details and I'll put them in the chat. What is the point? It was a software attack, basically. It wasn't what you thought. Like, why it took them 8 hours to recover. That's what we're talking about. What is the point? The point is, what you said doesn't make it. It's not what happens. Not what's happening. I didn't describe what the means of the military attack was. I said, you want an attack to let them attack you. An attack. You said to let them attack you, but they couldn't actually defend themselves or something. I think you're misinterpreting what I meant. I didn't mean the Iranians allowed the attack. I meant the Israelis want to allow the counterattack. In other words, they intentionally provoked Iran as they did before. Last year they did the same thing on a smaller scale. They provoked Iran. Iran did a counterattack, a measured, careful counterattacks to test the water and show the world that they were capable of stuff. And it would appear that they've now escalated this. The West with the US have created a provocation for which Iran can't back down from and say first they are obligated to respond with a strong military force. They've now done so, and they've effectively fallen into the exact trap. What's wanted now the American public before that Israel will victim. Now the entire might of the military of the US, British, and Israel all go to town and attack Iran. If you keep connecting dots to Earth, at least Earth theory, yeah. I predicted this for years. This is a year-long prediction. This is not me just randomly jumping. This is how I expected it to play out from day one. Every single scenario you ever write, this is how it would play out. This is not Iran doesn't do that 2 years ago. It's exactly that's not how Iran fights, though. That's not how Iran fights. Iran is very methodical, and they won't escalate to a point where world opinion would turn against them. They're very well aware of this. They already have, because the media controls public opinion. They've already won. Yeah, world opinion hasn't turned against them.
America's not getting involved in this war.
They've already involved. It's happening. The triggers are in motion. They've already had an attack in place in the US. Hasn't turned against them. It's already in motion. I wish it wasn't the case. I don't fall for the propaganda, but 99% of everybody I know falls for the propaganda.
I disagree. It's very clear that Israel attacked first.
Only your intelligent people that don't listen to the media. My friends in Britain will
It's the headline of every article.
The BBC will convince the British people that Israel has a right to defend itself, and they will go along with it. 10% will be angry, 10% will see through it, but it's the same throughout history. 10%
The whole West is pro-Palestinian. The whole West is pro-Palestinian. How can you expect those
Just a comment.
Unfortunately, I wish that was the case. It is.
No,
It's sadly mistaken. Do you live in America? Do you live in America?
I like people in the streets in the city. So
They're a tiny percentage, unfortunately. Tiny percentage. You see it on the media.
What is the claim you're making in relation to this attack?
Me?
Yeah, what's the claim you're making? That Iran?
Several times.
Can you
Say it again?
So Iran was the first one to attack. Is that the claim you're making?
Wow, are you having hard time hearing me? I mean, can you?
No, I was actually.
Claiming that world opinion is going to say Israel has a right to defend it.
He said that everyone's going to forget what Israel's done to the Palestinians, and everyone's going to be like.
Oh yeah, the reason. Look. There is what he's saying. The reason why, because the way some of these people, the PR campaign that they do, is the proxies. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, look, I'm only going to repeat this a bit more. You people are starting to say, I'm dumb. I'm not dumb. I don't want this to be the case. I've spent my whole life living in a world of propagandized idiots around me who, even back to World War II, were lying successfully against. And every generation successfully gets propagandized and lied to by the media, especially in the US and UK, and they're extremely gullible people. and the majority, especially in the US, are still far pro-Israel than the anti-Israel group. Actually, the number is changing, yes, but not enough to justify them saying, oh, we can't have the war against Iran. The US will have its war on Iran if it chooses, if it wants to, and everything indicates that it wants to, and we will see.
So what do we do? Hold on, Secretary. Hold on. What do we do about the survey result that says 53% are anti-Israel?
Which survey result?
There's a survey that was done in America. It was at 52, now it went up to 53.
It's great. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the shift. But 53% is not enough to tell Americans you can't have a war against Iran, because you do a survey, do you like Iranians? They'll say, no, we hate Iranians. They're all a bunch of horrible misogynists and stuff. You can have two things at the same time.
How old are you? Like, whatever do you live in?
I'm very old, but I'm still in touch with what's happening.
Yeah, sure. The way you perceive it is extremely like old-fashioned. This is not easy. People don't trust media anymore. People trust people. People trust people.
Correct.
They'd much rather take the news from TikTok with like listen videos than a dumbass system in which media becomes predominant. That era is dead.
It's not dead. It is changing and it's shifting. But the power remains, unfortunately, with the ones who will conduct the war and who will propagandize the public. Unfortunately, I don't want it to be the case. And anyway, I've said my position.
It is the case because you're still in the 80s. I mean, come on, keep up with the times. Come on.
I make fucking video games for teenagers. I'm not in the past. I'm totally current with trends. I fucking follow social media every day. I don't get my news from like it's I get all of my sources from
doesn't explain why Israel chose right now to do this.
Yeah, I've explained it, but you guys don't want to hear the explanation. But that's not.
The explanation is Israel wants world domination. It's very It's very vague. It doesn't tell me why now. Why now?
It's not